Coming up on OTH, Raymond and I have a lot to talk about with patch 12.8, Champions Queue Spring Split winners, LCS Spring Split finals, MSI news and pools announcement, lots of roster moves throughout the LCS, and lastly, the latest story from Washington Post on TSM. We hope you enjoyed this episode of On the Hunt. Welcome, everybody, to episode 55 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris, aka the Battle Station Commander, because I've been buying some new stuff for my room. Like, I got a new table and a new keyboard as well, which is now wireless. So I have a wireless mouse and a wireless keyboard now. Okay. And then my next upgrades are going to be a new graphics card, and with that, I have to get probably a new power supply as well. So just a whole lot of stuff is coming on, spoiling through for me.
What kind of keyboard did you get, dude?
It's just it's another Razer one, but it's because like it's one of the, from what I was able to look up, it's one of the better wireless keyboards that you can get, and I for sure wanted to get a wireless one, so I thought it just would go really well with the mouse that I have as well, because the mouse connectivity for also being wireless, it's never failed me, so that's why I felt pretty reliable going with this keyboard that I got.
Okay. I respect that.
But it sounds different from my older keyboard, so there's no more clicky clacky doomsday scenarios anymore. Well, not as much.
Isn't that what you get keyboards though for, so that you can be on Discord and start click clacking away, and your friends have to be like,
yeah, so that you know that I'm trying. Yeah. But to rewind it with, dude, like the standing table thing, which cost a fuck ton, by the way. It's not that cool because now I feel guilty for not using it to stand. And right now I'm not standing. I'm just sitting, and so it's just a table right now.
Damn, the pod feels like that'd be the perfect time to do the standing. You know, like you can just kind of like you don't need to be sitting there for anything. You're just walking around, talking, doing whatever.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be appropriate if since we're in the studio and stuff, I could just like stand on up. But I digress. And joining me on this episode is our other co-host, Raymond. I feel like it's been a bit, man. How's it going?
It has been a bit. I've had some wacky shit going on. That's why we didn't record faster last week. But I know I'm doing good now. Just work's been slow. I don't know. I'm kind of bored, other than the wacky life shit. But I've just been kind of bored, like during the day, because work has been slow, and I like know that I can't just leave because something might come up, but like stuff isn't coming up, so I'm like just hanging out for a lot of the day. It's kind of annoying.
I can see how that maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing, but yeah, I mean, it's all good. We got to take a little bit of a recording break anyways due to the break for MSI, but we've got a lot to cover today in this jam-packed episode.
Yeah, dude, a lot has gone on in this week that I did not expect to happen like right now.
Yeah, so I'll summarize it a bit. We're going to cover the latest patch, the LCS playoffs, some MSI stuff, roster rumors, and then top it off with some quote news today as well. But I guess before we get started with all that, how has the league life been going?
It's been going all right. Still, I'm mostly still just playing with my friends who are still like new to the game. I think a lot of them have placed now, and we're like around the low bronze area, so I just play with them.
I was gonna say, I feel like they've been new for like a month. I feel like they've been new for a month now, so maybe I don't know if they're ready to dive on in just yet, but it sounds like they are.
Yeah, we've got some good practice in. I definitely am like training weights for them like big time, so it's I'm sure it's easier for them to play their games when it's not me as the fifth and they can play with other bronze players.
Oh, true.
But yeah, I mean, just been fitting some games in here or there. Nothing crazy. What about you, man?
Sounds good.
You been playing some League?
League life? No, I don't play that game anymore.
Come on, last time you said you played like one ARAM. Thought maybe we'd have another.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's a fair expectation. But I don't know if I feel happier not playing League. I feel like I do feel more free, where I feel like, well, League has always been like my go-to time waster. Like if I definitely have nothing to do and I could choose to do whatever, I would just go play some ARAMs or something, and for sure like 20 minutes could fly by.
Yeah,
And then right now I just haven't felt that need to like, oh, I sit down and if I want to open something, that game is not League at this time. And
fair enough.
maybe sometime it will return, but just not right now, I guess. But it has been like a solid 2 months, I guess. Maybe even or three, yeah, 3 months almost.
Yeah, breaks are good for it. I feel like I always feel like there's at least, I mean, for me who hasn't like, we clearly haven't quit League all the way yet, right? Like there's always times where you don't play for whatever reason for a little bit, and then it starts to come back. You're like, oh shit, like damn, I watched a stream or something and like, damn, I want to play this champ, or I want to play League. I'm down. That's
Yeah,
the good feeling.
I still think about like all of the time that I've put into League and how much like we know about League and all these random little champion tricks
Yeah,
as well that you just have to know after playing it for so long. And I definitely feel like if I if I felt like I had a group going for League, then I would be more apt to jump back in.
right.
I don't know, it depends. But yeah, just using League as a time spender for myself, I'm not too big on it right now.
That's fair. That's
But
fair.
I need another reason to get back into it.
That's a sign that we're growing up, you know? It's not just, yeah.
Yeah, which is also a good
Yeah.
thing, maybe
Yeah,
a
true.
bad thing. All right, let's jump into this patch 12.8 that we covered a little bit some time ago with the preview, but now we've got the real thing, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of champions that got buffed this patch. About 14, I'm counting. 3 champions getting nerfed and some adjusted, allegedly. Um, and I kind of want to hop through this a little quickly. So for buffs, we have Bard, Ezreal, Fiddlesticks, Kassadin, Jin, Mordekaiser, Poppy, Sejuani, Silas, Tristana, Vel'Koz, Vladimir, Xerath, and Zoe. And then for nerfs, we have Jinx, Soraka, Xayah, and I'm going to say Kaisa got nerfed as well. And then a whole bunch of, let's call them adjustments for Swain. And I was kind of telling you beforehand that like it's kind of annoying that they made so many changes to Swain on the patch that's going to be used for MSI. Like why couldn't they just wait a patch or something like that?
Yeah.
Um, but where do you
We'll
want to start
see.
with all of that? Let's start with the I guess
Let's talk about the
who are
Swain thing. I'm fine with that.
okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, I think, to have I mean, it is weird. I think it's definitely like not good to make the big change. Like just like this is essentially a new champ that's being released in quotation marks like on this MSI patch. And people didn't really play him, so it's not like it's like a big power pick probably. He's still mostly doing the same stuff. But they're making like he gets more health from his stacks. He can't pull off of other people's CC, and his ulti like now is forever on as long as you're draining from somebody. So it's kind of like it is kind of just like adjustments. It's like the way that they talked about it, but I don't know. I've seen some people toying around with him. He doesn't seem too crazy different, but when you're ahead and you can get in those fights where your ulti is just like always on and the enemy team like just doesn't have enough damage to kill you, like they've only got one or two guys that are like dealing damage and they're burst people and they can't one shot you, and then you just get there and get to steal health forever and ever and get a bunch of keys off. He seems kind of strong, but I don't know that it's, especially in like competitive meta, I don't think he's going to be super dominant.
Right. And yeah, you described pretty much the biggest point, which is that he can't pull other off of other people's CC anymore, and his ulti lasts forever. And then you can also do the ulti explosion, and it doesn't end the ulti anymore,
Yeah.
which I feel like. So both of those points about the ulti are pretty important. In addition to like a lower cooldown. So yeah, I guess it really depends on the team fight prowess that maybe an always on ulti would supply to you, but yeah, like you were saying, he wasn't really a big competitive pick, and I was kind of saying for like the last 3 years, the last person I remember playing Swain was like Febivin in LCS. So yeah, that must have been like 2018 or something.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, or like the season 8 when ADCs ceased to exist, right? And people probably were playing Swain bot, then I remember like when
Oh,
Whippo role
right,
swapped, right, and replaced Reckless bottom. That was something. Those were the
right.
days.
Yeah, I remember a lot of like Swain Pike and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, but since then, I don't know. I feel like there's every once in a while where I would play that champ bot lane, like even after that, 8.11 patch or whatever it was, and I don't know. This champ is kind of cursed for me. I feel like every time I pick it, it's like we don't do bad in lane. It's not even like that bad of a game, but I just can never actually win the game with him. So I'll say it right now, I'm gonna try him, but I'm expecting him to still be cursed.
Yeah, and maybe doing that as like AD carry is not the greatest idea, um, just because you won't have like the extra levels to stay alive as long. I don't know.
Yeah, I think now especially the like not having the synergy to pull off of your allies too is like kind of hard. Like that was one of the big things that you can play a duo lane and have like Leona or Pike or whoever, and now you're double pulling them or like the stun duration is just forever extended. So that stuff is nice. I think is going to be a pretty big deal about not having him in the bot lane. Similarly, not having him as support either. Like I bet he'll see more play as mid or top because of these changes.
Yep. Now let's talk about some of the other champions that are have changes in this patch. And we covered a bit of them before, but are there any that you want to cover over again?
I think one that I think we haven't seen like a ton of, or that seems probably small just looking at it, is the Mordekaiser passive change. They're giving him basically just more move speed at higher levels. At level 6 and level 11, he now gets like beats or he gets his move speed bumped up when he has his passive moving. Like when he gets the 3 hits going and the circle around him is damaging people, he gets now 3, 6, and 9% at levels 1, 6, and 11 of move speed, which I think is probably going to make more teams pick him like as a counter, like two tanks, especially if more people at MSI just try to like blind pick Ornn or whatever. We'll see. I bet this would be a nice change for Mordekaiser in those spots. Like it doesn't change his like that he's not blindable or like he's not good into range matchups, whatever. Like he's still gonna have a hard time playing in every top lane, but in the ones where he was good, he'll be like extra good now.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big change to just increase the movement speed that he gets.
Yeah, move speed is always nice, especially for a champ that doesn't have any mobility otherwise. Any changes you're looking at? I'm also looking at the Triss changes. They're giving her bonus AD scaling. I think that's like I don't know. I feel like that champ is already good, and she can probably play into some like mid matchups that she's not getting played into right now. So having just extra scaling is pretty nice too.
I'm trying to scroll through. Nothing really seems too sticking out for me, which is how I thought this patch should be. Just a whole lot of like minor numbers adjustments, minus the Swain thing,
Yeah.
which I'm like oddly upset about. But yeah, other than that, nothing that we didn't cover before with the Jinx and the Kaisa changes, and how that might affect some of the other people who end up getting played in the bot lane at MSI.
Yeah, same with Zaya too. I think, the thing with the one that I would call out is that we've already seen definitely solo queue data for Jinx go down. Like I think she's lost a lot of percent win rate in solo queue. Like she might be below 50 at this point. Um, but I think that these nerfs are like certainly gonna hit her um, at MSI. Like you'll feel it. You might not see people not pick Jinx, but she's gonna be not as good in the same spots that she was before.
Any other champions you want to talk about from this patch?
Um, I don't think so for me. I did see actually, I saw the change to Jin, like the changes to Jin aren't very crazy. He gets a little bit longer root duration and basically more monster damage. And one thing they changed with his E is that you basically there used to be a damage debuff when you had multiple traps on jungle monsters. This goes for like Baron, so you couldn't like one shot Baron with 40 traps at level 20 or whatever, or at minute 20 or whatever. But I saw Arrow put out a video on Twitter where he set up like 4 traps at level 1 right outside of Raptors, like you would with like Shaco boxes, kind of, and basically like super leashed Raptors like the half HP, which is kind of what he was saying, like what they used to do with Maokai support, right? When that got was a thing for a while, where you throw a couple of saplings into the bush at Raptors, and then jungler could just like have level 2 at a minute 40. So
I remember that. Yeah.
I wonder if that's like actually going to be a thing, or if it's kind of just a meme thing that you would have to start trap as Jin, But it'd be kind of interesting if it did
uh,
happen. Keep an
no
eye out for
way.
the cheese strat.
No way.
You can make your friend who plays AD have to do this in his next game when he picks Jin. So that's the fun part.
One last thing I want to cover from this patch is a change to stopwatch, where now if you have Guardian Angel or Zanya's, you can't buy stopwatch anymore. So you can't have two instances of stasis. And I don't know if this was ever necessary. This has kind of been in the game for a while. Obviously since stopwatch has been in the game, you could
Yeah.
do the double stasis. Kind of don't know why that this change is being made now. And I
Well,
don't know if like if you have a stopwatch and then if you have enough gold to like combine or like outright buy Zanya's, I don't know if in that instance you'll be able to keep both. But that's the only thing I was thinking about. What were you gonna say?
I think I think a case like that where you can still do it technically, where you can buy, yeah, you basically have to buy a stopwatch and then, or buy two stopwatches and then buy Zanya's. Like you can do that, which is like maybe a thing that people will do, But I think it's kind of fair. I think it's nice to not have to think about double stopwatch, right? Like for the most part, it's a meme thing, and it is like a pretty big investment. I don't know. Maybe it's worth it. Like if you're saying, yeah, I'm like seriously capping myself by buying a second stopwatch when I already bought my stopwatch item. Um, but I don't know. To me, that always felt like it was just like a super cheese thing that it's usually on champs that you shouldn't expect it to happen on. And like having Zonias, I don't know, just like having to keep track of it just feels a little weird. So I'm okay with them kind of removing the interaction.
Yeah, I guess I'm okay with it as well. Just I don't know why it took so long to do that, I guess.
Yeah, it does feel, it is like a little, I don't know, just weird. Like it almost like you just want them to have like a shared cooldown, if anything. But what am I to say?
All right, so I think we covered enough from this patch. The last thing we can just go over is some skins that are going to come out that seem pretty sweet. So we have Lunar Eclipse, Aatrox, Senna, and then Sun Eater Kale, Solar Eclipse Sejuani, and Solar Eclipse Sivir.
Hmm, hmm.
And then lastly, we have two sea themed skins in Gangplank and Sea Dog Yasuo, which I don't even know what that means.
It's
So
a sea dog, a salty sea. I don't know. That's like a pirate. It's kind of pirate lingo.
yeah, I guess I'm not too familiar with that.
I'm pretty sure that those last two are like, they might be Ruined King lore.
Have you ever
Like
played that
for,
game, by the way?
I have it. I've played like the first like hour and a half of it and haven't gone back to it for a while. But I had fun with it. I want to go back to it. I just haven't finished it.
Okay, I actually had no idea like what that game was because I thought it was like a action adventure sword swinger kind of game. But then
Mm-mm,
somebody finally showed it to me, and it turns out it's like a turn-based kind of game. So that does
mm-mm.
look like it's kind of fun, and including the lead characters, and you get to play as like MF and use her ulti and stuff like that. It seems pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I think for me it like took a while to get into. Like you start out like so slow, like picking up characters and having like one skill, but it is like it's a bit weird of a system to get used to, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, let's keep it pushing. Let's just quickly brief over the spring winners for Champions Queue. So I guess they take the combined results from Split 1 and Split 2, and then they give another reward for the combined efforts, I suppose. So in
Mm.
first place, we have C9 Sven. Second place, CLG Dokla. Third place, Jojo Pyun. Fourth place, EG Kaori, who I believe is on the academy team. Fifth place is Golden Guardians Ole. Sixth place is CLG Breezy. Seventh place is Golden Guardians Pride Stalker. Eighth place is IMT Arrow. Ninth place is TL Armeo. And then 10th place is EG Surdy, who do you know what position he plays?
He's a top laner for their academy team.
Oh, okay. So nice to see that there's multiple Golden Guardians members and EG members here on this list, and then nice to see that Sven is still up there trying his hardest, even though he was in academy for the spring split.
Yeah, I do think it's funny that I think Dokla was the one who won like split 2 on its own, and then JoJo was the one who won split 1, right? But then Sven's just like he was chilling up there in both splits, like in the top 10
Yeah,
to pull out the overall one. So I wonder if those other guys just like were like whether Dokla didn't play that much in split 1. I guess he's number 2. He probably had to play some, huh? But interesting
yeah,
that
he
Sven
must
pulled
have
it
played a
out
fair
without winning
share.
an individual one.
And then I've only written the all 10 of these places. I believe they got prize support, but I've only written out the top 3 here. So first place got 25,000, second place got half of that, 12,500. But then there's a drastic drop off to third place and beyond for 2,500, and I can't remember what 4 through 10 get.
It's a good chunk of change for Sven, a guy who is kind of unemployed.
That's a good way to put it. And we'll be talking about more about him later. Okay, now it's been some time since the LCS finals, but let's talk about the spring playoffs. Starting off with TL versus EG, or at least, and let's just take some time to cover some highlight moments instead of like getting too deep about each of the games.
Yeah.
So I actually did end up going back and watching all of the TL versus EG games, and I think we're just gonna have to talk about what happened in game 1 that turned the whole game around.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. The Danny Pentico, like, that's... If you're going to see one clip out of the entire finals weekend, it has to be the Danny Berensteel and Pentico. Like, there's nothing else.
And I would actually probably say that was the highlight of the whole weekend, because the rest of it was just like, wow, why can't anyone beat EG? When I don't even know if EG played too crazy, but definitely EG got the best of both of TL and 100 Thieves. Spoiler, I guess, by just having consistent play throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
Although sometimes TL or 100 Thieves might get first or even first blood on Danny specifically, but then they would have these super crazy funnel strategies to put a lot of gold into Danny just throughout the game, but then eventually just everyone on EG was doing great throughout the whole weekend.
Yeah, it definitely felt like EG just like they had such good prep and like a game plan for themselves like throughout
Yeah.
the whole entire weekend, both series. They knew I feel like they knew not only like what they wanted to play, right, but they were ready in both series, like in the game 2s and games 3s, where the enemy team tried to pivot in the draft a little bit, and like they're like, oh, you're gonna pick Orin, like we're gonna counter you or whatever, or we'll take it away, and they always had a draft like ready in response to it. Like, yeah, you're not gonna get to just do that. Yeah, I don't know. That seemed like the big takeaway for me is that they were kind of on a momentum, like they had just 3-0 C9 going into the weekend, and they knew that the way they played worked. It felt like, and everybody else had to
Yeah.
try to catch up.
Are there any other games from the whole finals weekend that you want to cover, either against TL or against 100 Thieves?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of any other games in particular. The 100 Thieves series felt like, I don't know, that one was definitely the easier one for EG.
Yeah, a bit uneventful, I would say.
I did like at the end, I like that they called their shot too. Like at the end of Friday's games, they were saying, they had JoJo and Danny on the stage and interviewing them, like, you're going to finals. Danny did this crazy play, right? And Danny was like, yeah, I think we thought that today was going to be the harder series. Like 100 Thieves is not as good as TL, so we're definitely going to 3-0 them tomorrow, basically.
Yeah.
And they fucking went out and did it, dude. The absolute bad men.
Yes, and it's pretty crazy looking back. They only dropped some games to TL at the start of the playoffs and then to FlyQuest right after, but then went on a whole, 10, they went on a 10-game win streak, or
Yeah.
it's 11. Yeah, 11-game win streak to finish out the rest of the playoffs, and they'll be heading to MSI. I want to ask you, I guess, how do you think about EG, or how do you feel about EG, the team, after this whole series of events? Because I don't think anyone could have predicted that at the start of playoffs they were going to be doing this well for themselves. But looking upon their team now with some great strengths in across the whole team, I guess, how do you feel about Evil Geniuses? You know, with all of the hype that they started with from lock in, kind of a mediocre start of the spring split, having more or less a negative record all the way up to the final end of it, where they just won some tiebreakers to break even and
Yeah.
secure fourth place. Um, but yeah, how do you feel about Evil Geniuses after all of this? Like this kind of like roller coaster ride of a spring split, and the first for JoJo and second for Danny.
Yeah, it is a little crazy, I think. I think I've heard the stat on Hotline League a couple times, like since they made it to the finals weekend, probably, where they were saying that EG during the spring split, during regular season spring split, never won more than 2 games in a row. Like they never had larger than a 2 game win streak. Just to show how like inconsistent this team was, and it felt like a lot of the criticisms that they had, like, or that you could have had on this team in spring, was like that they're taking every fight, they're way too aggressive, right? Like they're these like newish players, like between like JoJo and Danny, and even Inspired, who's not like that seasoned of a veteran, right? And they were just kind of going for everything, coin flipping games, and you can't expect them to be consistent ever. And then they go into these playoffs, and I don't think that they changed their style too much, but they just were way better at finding, I guess, either they were way better at actually taking the fights or better at picking only the ones that they knew they were going to win, or that they had a better chance at. Maybe they just had better positions in every game, but they to go on that 11 game win streak in lower bracket, I think that's just like too insane to not be excited about this team coming out of the playoffs and going to MSI.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what they can do for themselves with that style that they've secured. And it doesn't look like, after we've covered patch 12.7 and 12.8, it doesn't look like there's going to be huge deviations from what they've played in playoffs to MSI. There's not going to be like sudden Rumble and Morgana jungle like roaming the streets, and now you just have to adapt to that.
Right.
So I'm excited to show or see what um, the strong points of their team can pull out, and then see how Danny and JoJo can perform overseas as well.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be interesting. I think the one thing that I've heard this echoed a few times, since EG1, right? And it's everybody going like super hype about, oh, it's Danny and JoJo, this new talent, right? New NA talent, Ricky talent, winning the split against like all these veteran teams. It's crazy. But it's definitely, I feel like we have to shout out the other members of the team, like Inspired and Impact especially went like super crazy in the entire weekend, I think.
Yeah, the
Um,
entire weekend.
yeah, like Impact soaked like so much. Like, I mean, he was winning lanes that, I mean, he doesn't have to win, but he was winning lanes. Like he picked that Mordekaiser pick in game 2 of the finals, into, Sunday trying to pick Orin away, and just showed like this is how you beat Orin, guys. Like, come on. And Inspired was like just a super consistent. I mean, he was talking about it after they won, about like, look, all I have to do, I have to just go bottom and I spoon feed Danny the kills. I'm like, here, Danny, take this. I know you're gonna carry late game. You're like the best fucking player in the world, kind of thing. Um, so it was pretty crazy to watch those guys just like super shine. I do think, like you said with Danny, like getting killed in early game, right? Like dying in lane and that kind of stuff. I think that the same is going to happen probably for JoJo. I mean, probably, right? Like he's going to play against Caps, he's going to
Ooh,
play against
okay.
Faker. Like these, I think it'll be harder for EG to replicate exactly the way they played, because their weaknesses are going to be like more exposed, right? Like I think they still have a chance. Like their other players are good. They played really well as a team, right? But those things that they might maybe get away with against, these like NA teams, are going to probably be punished a little harder by some of these foreign international teams.
Okay. And then my last question to you would be that do you feel extreme like confidently that EG is the best team that we could be sending to MSI? Because looking back on on their playoff run in that last weekend, some of these games were they were in extreme leads by like 15 minutes, and then some of the games were over by like even 23 minutes into the game. So they were kind of stomping TL and 100 Thieves in some of their matches. So what do you think about EG and compared to like the rest of the LCS? I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think they kind of have to be. I don't know. I think that if any of these other teams had won, I probably would have been okay with it. Not C9. I think C9 was doomed. Like, and they've
Oh
proven
yeah,
that they blew up the roster, right? Like C9 going into the top four. Like, I don't think that they were actually like should have been in the conversation all right. But between 100 Thieves and TL, or yeah, if either of them had figured out a way to win, I probably would have been fine with it. Like I think if TL had like 3-0'd EG on Saturday, right? Like I'm not thinking twice about like, oh shit, I really thought EG would be the one to go to MSI, right? And they'd be our hope. Um, but I don't see like looking as it's played out, right? I don't think I see a reason why I would want either of those two teams instead of EG right now. Like they were like ahead above the rest, at least in playoffs, right? Like whether that's just this patch kind of thing, or they just figured out themselves as a team and are like by far and away the better team. Um, I'm definitely happy with them as our representative.
yeah, me too. And I hope that they can take what they've got and just have a strong showing at MSI.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think the only way that MSI could go bad is if they like get 2-0'd by the Oceania team in groups and somehow don't make it to the Rumble stage.
Yeah, so let's get started with MSI. So there's two things to share. Uh, First is that during the LCS playoffs weekend, they announced the pools for the let's call them like the first stage, the play-ins. So in Group A we have Detonation, Focus Me, Saigon Buffalo, T1, and Team A's. I don't know where that last team is from. And Group B, we have Istanbul Wildcats, PSG Talon, Red Candids, and Royal Never Get Up. So there's a lot of returning names there. And then lastly, in Group C, we just have only three teams with G2 Esports, Evil Geniuses, and Order from Oceania. So pretty cool play-ins groups that are set up here. I remember last year it was kind of like let's just watch our or the LPL representative beat these other two teams to a pulp. And
Yeah.
I think one of the other groups felt the same way as well. Or no, actually, I think PSG Talent like surprised us a little bit,
Yeah, I
if I
forget what
recall.
the other groups. I feel like the groups where you have the two major regions are like fine, but it was just like last year that it was RNG because of like how one team dropped out or whatever. It was RNG was the only one that could go, or like RNG was alone in that group of three, like as the only major region. So that one felt like yikes to watch, like that was unfair. So
Yeah.
I like that they have this time we get G2 and EG instead of like just G2 and random regions or like more wildcard regions instead. I
Yeah,
mean,
in
maybe
the
NA
smaller
is a
group.
wild card, but
And then, so how these groups work is that the teams will play each other a lot. I think Group C plays more games against each other than the other teams, and then it's the top two from each group that will advance onto the second Rumble stage, I believe.
mhm.
And then I think that they also changed up the schedule for that as well. So it is confirmed to be starting on May 10th, and I think the first game starts at like 1 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, it's an early start time. We get that Korea schedule. I think maybe the first day. No, never mind. It's all at 1 a.m. for us. Fuck.
Yeah. Um, and then so that's the MSI pools. The other MSI news that we have is that the LPL team representatives are allowed to be playing remotely instead of in South Korea with all of the other teams that will be attending. And then on top of that, all teams are going to be forced to be playing on 35 ping for throughout the whole competition. Um, Oh, and then I don't know how the schedule is going to work out, but so the first play-ins pools, starts on May 10th, and then the Rumble starts on May 20th, I believe. So I think there's like a gap in between the end of the first stage and this and starting into the second stage as well, like maybe like 4 or 5 days, unless they change the schedule. So how do you feel about this LPL team getting to play remotely due to whatever circumstances that they have going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weird, I think, to make like it just sucks that everybody else has to play on ping as well. Like I don't know how big of a deal that is, being someone who hasn't played on 10 ping realistically. Um, so I don't know how much that's really going to affect anybody else, like if they're all on the same level playing field. But it does suck, I think, just that whatever it's a difference from a normal LAN event basically, which is kind of lame. But it's nice that LPL gets to play at least, like they are, since the event is in Korea, like it's not that far away for them, and they already play solo queue like that anyway, so it should be. I think it's okay. I think it's a little lame, but not the worst.
Yeah, it's a little lame, but I'm glad that they get to play. Like, it definitely wouldn't be the same without them, I would think.
Hmm.
Uh, anything else about MSI that you want to talk about?
No, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say anything about playing or the initial group stage, because it feels like the only way things could go bad is if EG like doesn't make that second spot, like I was saying, and then somehow don't make it into Rumble, because that's the fun part, right? Like I want to see Danny and JoJo against like Faker and RNG and whatever, but I don't want them to just like get clapped by G2 and clapped by this Oceania team.
Uh-huh.
But
I mean,
but I think everyone else should just like it should go as expected, like I think we'll see
yeah.
T1 come out, and we'll see PSG and RNG come out of Group B. I don't know enough about the other Group A teams to say anything differently about who's going to be second there, but like I don't think it's going to be crazy here, but we'll see come next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I could see EG just dropping a lot of games there, like losing games to order. Maybe like if they play 2 or 3 times, and they could lose one or maybe even 2 games, just because of like inconsistency or like nervousness playing on an international area. But I feel like that's pretty funny because I'm not too crazy. I don't know if I feel that crazy about UG of like, oh, they're definitely our best team. Um, or like that we've ever sent at least. Or but I know that they have some strong points about them. But then can they keep that up? Um, I could see it like I could see them dropping the ball here.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. They
Yeah.
should be
Anything else
fine.
for MSI? Yeah, I hope so.
They should be fine.
They should be
No,
fine.
I'm good on MSI. I think now we just gotta wait to see.
Right. Now let's do some roster talk because in the last like 7 days, a whole lot of stuff just came out of nowhere that I actually really wasn't expecting. I don't know. I don't know why I wasn't expecting too many roster changes outside of like we were talking about maybe C9, but even some of the lower teams, I didn't, outside of the top five, I didn't expect anyone to be making any roster moves halfway through the year. So, I mean, let's start with the big talks with Cloud9 officially announcing that Summit, Isles, and Winsome are leaving. And I believe that some Twitter talk went on that Malice is going to be moving from the Academy Jungle to the coaching staff there as well.
Hmm.
So about 4 players moving. And then there are some rumors that Jensen will be joining the team, heading to middle and with Summit leaving the team, Fudge would be going back to top. And then to cover for 2 supports leaving their team, Zen would be transitioning from Academy AD carry to the main roster support, and I think they might be picking up Destiny for support as well. So a lot of that last step was rumored, but let's start with the first 3 leaving the team. 1, are you surprised? And then 2, how do you feel about it?
um, I think I'm not too surprised based off of how the year ended for them, and the like I don't know, the scuttlebutt, the rumors that have been surrounding the collapse kind of C9. I'm not that surprised that this has happened. Like there was if this was the only thing I'd heard about it, I would have been like, no shot. They just like the last thing we heard was Summit got MVP and now he's off the team. Like I'd have been bonkers, but I think that there's enough coming out that there was some shit like I don't know, the team just wasn't working or Summit wasn't, integrating NNA, whatever. They couldn't make this work, and so I'm not surprised to see Summit leave. I think Winsome was probably the the more expected one, like if you're C9 and you look back and you're like, look, we can fix Summit. Winsome I would have seen as like, it's probably not going to be our best bet for this year at least. Like maybe you keep him as academy or whatever, but if you're losing Summit and you feel like Winsome isn't that good, like I'm probably fine dropping him. Um, like alongside it, just like you know that your team is suddenly going to be a lot less Korean, right? So I would be ready to move him.
Yeah, and it looks like Summon is just going straight back to Korea as well. There's pretty much 0% chance he'll play for another LCS team, at least for the summer split here. And then, so how do you feel about Fledge transitioning back to the top lane? Do you think, like, was the mid experiment good, or are you happy to see that he might be going back?
I think I'm happy to see him going back. I don't think it was like bad that he was in mid.
I don't think
Um,
so either.
but especially given the consideration that it's like they're ready to pick up Jensen, like I'm down for the role swap. If they were just swapping him back and like putting copy in, I think you feel a little bit more like it's like they think he's not good mid or whatever, like it's not working out. And I wouldn't say it's not working out, but this feels a lot more like it's just like it's something he wants to do and they have good ways to fill the role. Um I don't know. I don't know enough about like how to analyze how they played or anything to say like yeah, he's a born top laner, like he should be there or whatever, like or his tendencies mid were bad because he played top, he should just go back to top.
Sure.
Like I don't know about that stuff. Because he seemed like he was okay. Like I mean, to be fair, like half his job just had to be like pick Rise and pick TF and then stun somebody for Summit, and then let Summit go wild. So I think he looked okay, but it's probably better for him to go back to top, just in terms of being like, I mean, he was a good top laner, right? Like near the end of last year, we felt like he was a top three top in NA, right? And I don't think that's what he felt like as a mid for C9. So it's probably better for them.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. He played 1 year for top and then one split for mid, and so I just kind of whatever he wants to stick with, I would be okay with. And I think that he's a good player to be in the league as well. As far as his mid performance goes, I think yeah he did a fine job. This splits, the spring splits kind of meta wasn't too crazy. I know he played a lot of Corki, but even a bit of few RE games. I know that he had some pop off ones there. But then some of the
Yeah.
Victor games that he played during the playoffs were just kind of eh. Um,
Which, to be fair, when you're on a team that like felt like you're losing it, like C9 was, like Victor's not a great champ to show off in those kind of games. But yeah, I think it would have been more fun if the LS experiment had gone well and he had stayed around. I think we would have seen a lot more interesting stuff out of Fudge, like the Ivern stuff
I kind of forgot
and
about the Ivern thing. Yeah,
right, like that was so long ago. Like he picked Ivern and Soraka in the first 2 weeks of LCS as this brand new mid laner, and then like just never happened again. Like if that kind of strategy had stuck around and Fudge was able to show like this versatility as, the guy who's gonna pull out these crazy things, the guy who's gonna pull out like top lane champs, when necessary, whatever, like, that would have been cool. But just being like a normal meta mid, I don't don't have a feeling one way or another about him staying there or leaving.
for sure, for sure. Anything else about Cloud9?
Um, I don't know. I think. What do you think about Jensen coming back? I feel like I think he'll be better than Bjergsen has looked this split, like being as someone else who's taken a break. But Bjergsen was longer as like the coach, even though he played solo queue and that kind of stuff. I think I think he'll be better, but I don't know that he's gonna be, top three, like, the world semifinalist Jensen right away.
Sure. I guess yeah. I don't know how he's going to perform, but what I would want to say on this is that I'm glad that of all teams he would be going to C9 or a top 3 team because yeah, I pretty much only want to see him on TL maybe 100 Thieves, or even the way that C9 is going to shape out now with having Fudge, Blabber, Berserker. Yeah, I think it's fine for Jensen to be joining this team, and I have high hopes for him coming back into this. And I feel like that, um, at least the pieces around him. I don't know if how well, because I don't. He's never played with Fudge, and I think it's been a while since he's played with. No, scratch that, because I was gonna say it's been a while since he's played with imports, but he played with them on TL, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
He played with Blabber, right, when he was last on C9. He was the duo with Blabber. They were doing like Svenskeren, Golden Glue, and Blabber Jensen, right?
well, yeah, I guess that was the last time that they did that. So
So
yeah,
it's not going to
I'm
be
glad that
totally new.
yeah, not totally new, but yeah, Fudge and Berserker, and I don't know if they end up playing with Sven. I don't think he's played with Sven before.
Yeah.
So some familiar faces, some new pieces, and how are they going to operate with somebody like Jensen, and does for as far as Fudge go and Sven go, will like will Jensen be reminiscent of like Perks's play from last year, and how sometimes Perks was like kind of a leader in the game.
Hmm.
So I think it's really interesting for Jensen to be coming, one, back to the C9 organization, two, playing for this C9 roster, and I'm pretty excited for it if he is.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. I do think it's weird that he's going back to C9 just because I felt like he of all people like left C9 on pretty bad terms. You know, like that felt like more of a like fuck you Jack, like I'm not coming back. You know, Steve paid me and he cares about me. Um and I don't I'm like that's the part where I'm surprised, like, you know, there must have been some like Jack going to Thanos, you know, like you must be really desperate if you're coming to me for help kind of thing, right?
Uh huh.
Like something that's the part where I wonder, like, if this doesn't go well, is there, you know, he's probably gotten next split, you know, just as fast if things go badly.
Yeah, but I'm glad that he's back in the league, and we've been talking about a whole lot of players who were out of the league, like who have now found homes. I think Niski found a home, Jizuke found a place. Now Jensen has. Maybe the only outstanding people I'm thinking of now is like Sven Skaren, and I don't know if there's anybody else off the top of your. Oh, and Ignar is coming back as well. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm glad that a lot of players are coming back after one split.
Yeah, true. It's almost like it's kind of funny that LCS is like, I felt like this year was, oh, we're getting all these new guys, you know, we have all these new rosters or new imports, whatever. But they're like, nah, never mind, bring those guys back. You're right, they were good.
Yeah, and then I'll be excited to see how Jensen's going to fare against. I guess it's more or less the same top teams with 100 Thieves and Cloud9 being the top competitors from the summer split back then as well. Yeah,
And now we
that's
get
who
to
they went to
see,
Worlds with, and yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty much the same people still running the game, and he'll be coming back into that.
and now we get to see if EG was right about picking Jensen, or picking JoJo over Jensen.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
All
All
right,
right,
but enough about C9.
let's move on to some TSM news. Who a couple things happened with them, but let's start with the roster stuff. So it looks like the LPL import from Thunder Talk Gaming Young, Kai Duo, is going to be out of the team, but and he'll still be in the America for a little bit longer, but he's no longer playing for TSM. I don't even think for the academy team either. And I think they announced today that they'll be bringing in Maple as well,
Yep.
officially. The next thing is that they have a few other academy moves as well, dropping Viper and bringing in some like anime girl. I think the guy's name is, but
I
I
think he
think
name changed to Soul now, but yeah, Anime Girl,
okay,
you would have heard about him before, I think.
that's the one I remember. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they're bringing in another support named Mia, who I looked it up, and that player comes from like Latin America, but he's a Korean import who was playing in Latin America before this, and now he's on
Yes.
TSM Academy. So to my understanding, they have three supports right now with Yursan, Shenyi, and this Mia person.
I think they've announced that your son is like now on like an inactive roster. Like I think they said he's going back to China or Taiwan, wherever he's from. And he's like still on under contract for TSM basically, but not playing. So it's kind of like Kaidwo, but he's like still technically on the team, kind of.
Ooh,
But he
that's
won't
kind of
be the
weird.
academy one.
Oh,
And
okay,
it's like
okay.
now it's like only Shenyi and Mia who are like gonna be. I think there also was a tweet from Jack K's like from TSM that was saying that Shenyi and Mia are gonna be like competing for the LCS spot, but they announced Mia as the academy support for now.
Right, yeah, and I think that a lot of people were thinking that Mia was going to be the main roster support, but then they announced him as the Academy one already.
Hmm.
And then, surprise out of nowhere today, they TSM suddenly announced Xmithy will um, be brought on as the coach for the Academy team. I guess it gave me a little bit of mixed feelings because we haven't seen Xmithy even in the scene for like 4 years.
Yeah, the guy has been like super radio silent.
Yeah, with like the odd like comment on someone else's tweet every once in a while. And I think the last thing that we saw from him is that
Right.
he was doing some like coaching with some website like about a year or two ago. And really that was it. We kept saying that like, oh, X Smithy and Double Lift and Sven Garen and people like that are missing from the league. How would they be? And we kept thinking like, how would they be doing in these metas, and how would teams be doing with these players, and is he ever going to come back? And people have been saying like, oh, I think his name is Jake. Jake has been like, he'll come back for the right circumstances or something like that. But it seems like he's pretty much in the same boat as a lot of the other players of like, he had his payday and now he's not going to come back for anything less, at least as a player. Um, you know,
Right.
and then now he is back as a coach, and I guess it goes on with like a lot of the stuff that has been going on with TSM of like signing people too late, I guess, because a lot of people were saying that they got Sword Art, too late. Now they have Maple. Are they getting Maple like too late? Now they have Xmithy as a coach, when they should have signed Xmithy like 5 years ago. So I just think that that's kind of funny, like thinking about like how ironically they're signing all these like formerly great players.
Right. Yeah, it is kind of funny. I feel like with the Xfinity stuff especially, it's like I guess this is where like I feel mixed about him signing as a coach because I think he'll be a good coach. I like him as an academy coach. I know it, as I say this, knowing that he like literally hasn't done anything on a team as far as we know for
Yeah,
two
I have
three
no
years
idea
or
about his
whatever.
coaching prowess.
Yeah. But he seems like a good guy that would be good. And I'm surprised that amidst everything going on, like with TSM as like an org kind of, that they were able to get Nick Smithy on as an academy coach because that feels like such a banger pickup of like a good guy who will probably do a good job
Yeah, like who?
at going into like this like
Yeah,
mess of a
like look who is
situation.
like who keeps coming to our organization. Like at least they're keeping it up with Spica, keeping it up with Xpiti now, and hopefully they can continue to attract more talent. Because I think that a lot of people were kind of like looking to Peter Zhang as like the familiar face at TSM after the last year,
After everyone else left,
but then now
yeah.
he's gone too. So
Then
I
that's no
guess it's
good.
just
That's
like
no good.
K's and Spica, I guess.
All right, we gotta talk about Maple though. At least, how do you feel about them getting Maple?
I really don't care either way, and if anything, I'm kind of down about it. Because I think whoever it was before Takeover, I would rather see him get more play than bring in Maple because I don't even know what's Maple been up to. I don't has he even been playing for like top 5 LPL teams, or I think
I
he was
think
doing well back in
I
his
think he was in LPL and he was bad.
yeah.
He was like bottom six teams in LPL, and that's a 16 team league. Like it was
You're
not
right, and
good.
I think he went back to the region that the Flash Wolves is in, and I think he was yeah, I
LMS
think
now, right?
he was doing well. Didn't wasn't he on PSG Talent, or am I tripping? So
He was on PSG Talent. He went from PSG Talent when they were doing good, not last year but the year before.
okay,
Um, he went from PSG Talent to the LPL team, I think. Maybe he was on PSG Town last year. Let me look it up while we're sitting here talking about it.
yeah, because I know we
Um,
remember like Doggo and stuff like that out of or whoever was playing ADC, the ADC replacement.
Oh, okay. So he was on PSG Talent last
Okay.
year, December 2020 to December
Yeah. And
2021.
yet and they
So
did hot
this
all
year
of
he's
last
been
year.
on
They
the LPL
like
team.
PSG talent was
Yeah, last year they were hype.
hmm,
And I think, the thing that I think about this move is that I think this is what they wanted to do. Like, to me, I feel like I'm remembering during the like mid-season, off-season, where they were wanting to, like, there were rumors that they were getting Maple, right? Like, I thought that was a thing, like he was a candidate essentially, right? Um, Especially with like getting Chawi and um having like talked like having Sword Art for a little
uh-huh.
bit, like you'd think that would be a good angle. Um, but I think that, like once you go with Kaido, it's like, okay, wow, now we're like all in on this young guy,
I
right?
thought they
Like
were.
whatever
Yeah.
whatever happened that they couldn't, yeah, whatever happened that they couldn't get Maple, and then you get this, like, then you're like, okay, we're going with this rookie guy. Uh, it feels a little weird to go back, but also in a way, I think because of how well Takeover went for them, like in that replacement role, um, I think they probably feel good about Takeover, and they're fine keeping him in an academy role and getting Maple now because you're like, you have the opportunity to, and you probably need to do something, otherwise like your team looks bad,
Yeah.
right? So it's like we get Maple now, we look better this year. We still have Takeover, who we probably feel good about next year if something goes wrong with Maple, or if he just decides like I'm old and don't want to play anymore. And he's only 24, but like still, that's old. Maybe he's been playing for a long time. um, but like if like that feels like this is probably what we wanted, to have a good mid rather than a pure rookie mid, and we still feel like we have a good rookie mid. So that's why it's like not just Kaduo going to academy or staying on the roster in some way, and like them just kicking him and setting, bringing in Maple. So in a way, I feel okay about it. I don't think like TSM is going to be suddenly amazing, but I think Maple probably should be good in NA, right? Like looking bad in LPL is probably not a good accurate like a good representation of looking bad in NA, especially if he was pretty good on PSG just last year, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad that TSM is making a high caliber move. I'm just not too hyped about it being Maple. Although,
Yeah.
verifiably he did well last year, at least for himself. Um, I've just been so down on TSM after this split, and
Yeah.
whatever problems that they may or may not have been having with communication throughout the team because of having all of these, let's just say foreign players come into and having to interact with Tactical and Huni, and then like Spica being caught in the middle of all of that. Does that solve any of
Mm.
this? I'm sure that if Maple was going to come to any LCS team, then TSM is a great team due to all of the Chinese infrastructure that they have. But I'm just not hyped about it, and it would be a pleasant surprise if, um, even if Maple just does well for himself, and then whether if TSM improves at all,
Yeah.
maybe to like to be able to make playoffs, then that would just be a pleasant surprise. But right now, I'm just like
Whatever.
kind of
TSM,
whatever.
do your
I don't
thing.
I don't know if Maple's gonna be top
Yeah.
5.
I'm glad that they kept Shenyi. I'll also say that. I felt like right after the season ended, it felt like there was worry for me that they were gonna totally blow up the roster, right? Like it's gonna be Kaido gone. It's gonna be like there were talks about like them getting Bo from FPX and like replacing Spica, and I was like, dude, if TSM blows up this roster completely and like Shenny's gone, and it's just like Tactical and Huni who are like not even really TSM
Uh-huh.
guys, like I feel like it's all is lost. But the fact that they kept most of the team from last year, and it showed, or from last split, like it's not even a year, Jesus. But the fact that they kept most of the team, like they might be doing, some growth here, gives me better hopes than if they had just completely dynamited the roster
I'm
again.
I'm with you with that as well. All right, we're not even through all of the changes yet, so let's get through. Let's
I
talk
know.
about Immortals now, who made a whole bunch, or they're looking to make a whole bunch of changes. So first, they officially picked up Ignar, who, like we were saying, took a break off and for this split, and then now he's back with Immortals, who have also dropped their current support Destiny for this, and then they also lost Xerxes, who will be going back to the EU LCS as well. So right now they are without a jungler, but they have picked up Ignar, and I believe they are rumored to pick up Lost from Golden Guardians, which I'm a little confused about because then they would be having Wild Turtle, Arrow, and Lost. So something is going to happen there to make all of that work. But how do you feel about the addition of Ignar to the Immortals team, who joining Power of Evil, and technically Wild Turtle's still there, so it's like remnants of that FlyQuest team from a couple of years ago. What do you think about these roster changes?
That made playoffs, that went to Worlds. Yeah, I kind of like Ignar. I think he's a good pickup. I'm surprised that he managed to go a whole split not on a team. Like especially because it didn't seem like that was Ignar saying I don't want to play, right? So I'm glad that he's back on a team. I feel like this is a good spot for him, like you said, with Power of Evil again. So yeah, that part's cool to me. I'm interested that they're dropping Xerxes. I don't know who they're gonna get for jungle. Maybe that's
that'd be sick.
Back. Maybe this is his spot. Yeah, that would I'd be kind of hyped for that roster. I don't know, that'd be cool. But yeah, the Lost pickup also, I'm confused about that Lost pickup too. Like one, I don't think he looked good on Golden Guardians. I feel like Golden Guardians looked okay this split. Like I'm surprised that they would want to get rid of him. So I wonder if they just like are doing a straight up trade for one of the 80 carries on Immortals.
That would make sense.
I wonder if it's like with Wild Turtle, or if Wild Turtle is like retiring or something. Like he said, I'm done. Like I don't want to be 10th place. Like maybe I'm just bad. I like that stuff. I'm not sure, but I do feel like Lost had a decent split. That I'm not like oh, Immortals, this is a downgrade. I mean, Immortals is a fucking 10th place team, so like it's probably hard to downgrade your roster. So I feel like it's a good pickup for them, but I don't know like why. I don't know, one, why Golden Guardians would get rid of them, or two, why Immortals would feel the need to fill this spot when I think they have two serviceable 80 carries.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that like there would. I could see like a swap for like 80 carries, like, but I don't know exactly why, but I don't imagine that to fill in the jungle void that Immortals has, that Golden Guardians would be getting rid of so many different people and making so many changes. So yeah, I'm equally as confused because I was kind of hoping that Golden Guardians was going to run it back. I was actually kind of hoping a lot of these teams were going to run it back with the rosters that they had. Anything else for Immortals that you want to chat about?
I don't think so. I don't know. I think we hit them.
Okay.
Should be.
And then the last roster change that was already confirmed is that Fake God has left Dignitas. And then I think that's it. I don't think I missed anything else, but yeah, just like 10 roster moves happened in the last week before MSI takes place. And I wonder if we're going to see more, but a lot of these teams in the bottom half of the league just made a whole bunch of moves that really just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I am wondering if Dignitas isn't like done making moves either. Did you see there was some tweet, like it was like a day after the Fake God release, that Biofrost made a tweet that was just like a sad face. And like that's when and this is like pure speculation, like nobody has said anything like this is actually him getting dropped or something, but I'd be shocked if they dropped Biofrost or made changes to their bot lane.
I'd be pretty shocked too, because I thought that they were doing well for themselves on Dignitas, but the Fake God move, I
Fake God,
yeah.
I mean, yeah. There's not a lot to say. It sucks for him, but yeah, I mean, it's been a few too many splits of him just like, I don't know, he's been put in shitty situations. He's probably academy level somewhere, but I don't know if teams want to fit him into an academy spot at this point. It's hard to justify, I think.
All right, now lastly, to wrap up this episode, let's talk about the article dropped by the Washington Post today, which kind of culminates a lot of the stuff that has been going around with TSM Reginald and this, I guess, let's say, toxic environment that he has brought about we have mostly thought about like the League of Legends team, but of course he runs the whole like TSM company. So as a result, maybe some of the other teams have been affected in this manner, and as well as the sister company Blitz as well. And so I don't want to get too much into it because a lot of it is just like it's not that I don't take it seriously, but I feel like it's just a lot of anecdotes combined into one um, about the toxic and allegedly abusive atmosphere that has been fostered, and like people like being fearful for their jobs and having been a part of, yeah, I guess the environment that has been brought about by Andy and Reginald, or Reginald, yeah. But one part that I'm interested in this whole thing is that suddenly in the middle of all of it, there's this whole part about what that takes up most of the article actually about some people being classified as contractors rather than employees, and but and the kind of duties that these people were having and having to report to, having to report to work at a certain time, and work a certain number of hours and stuff like that. They report that they have been misclassified as contractors, even though they're fulfilling these other kind of things, when they should be employees, and therefore TSM should be paying certain kinds of taxes and providing benefits, at least in the state of California. And so, not correctly classifying them as employees in the state of California is considered fraud. From what I like briefly looked up about it. So,
Yeah.
I, with what I guess what I've told you so far, I think that has like, or I think that it could have implications on like maybe even like the spot in the LCS. But I guess what do you think about like this article
Yeah.
coming out and a lot of this stuff? And I actually kind of feel like the Xmithy news came out to like combat this, just like in like a
Right.
funny
Honestly,
conspiracy kind of way.
it's not a bad move to do that because I feel like Smithy is like a
Uh
great
huh.
guy to try to be, the positive news. Yeah, I don't know. This article, I think I might have said something like this when Doublelift like first came out with like being, the accusation like drama frog kind of guy against Reginald a few months ago. Um and like I honestly this article is kind of like the thing that I would have liked to see come out of that to start, right? Like you go to a reporter, like make this like a legit thing rather than he said she said thing. And I think that yeah, I mean, like you said, the part about like the contractors and stuff, like actual legal stuff is like it's gonna like something has to come out of this at this point is basically my thing. Um, I I don't know this one, but this one feels bad. Like this one is like the most like I don't know. There's nothing you can do to really deny or like cope about like Reginald not putting people in a shitty spot at this point, right? Like that's like not good leadership to get to a point where there are fucking Washington Post articles written and investigations done and like multiple witnesses are people willing to like kind of testify or respond to that in a news article, so I'm I don't know, it sucks. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know, I think you're right. I think something has to come out of this of like uh, LCS probably in particular um, needs to respond in some way to this if the like legal stuff especially comes out as true. Because I think one it would look bad for LCS if like a different like I mean TSM is in a lot of other esports, right? Besides just League. Like even like Blitz works for other games besides League, right? Like they're in these other places, and if a different company like cuts ties with them first, I feel like Riot and LCS will like look bad as if they're like not as serious about it. So as like a team, as an organization that you're like a franchise partner of the league, right? Like this is like serious big business ties. It's probably important for them to make that kind of move and like prove like yeah we're gonna act on this rather than just like let it continue to slide.
Yeah, I want to echo your sentiment too because I kind of downplayed all of the other stuff as well. But now it feels like it's serious that like you were saying that the reporting is here. Like now all of the people or a lot of people are seen to be coming forth about what more than just the League of Legends team and more than just the stuff that's happened 10 years ago. It's also it continues to be stuff in the last 1 year ago of this this environment um, has continued to manifest itself through the leadership team. Although a lot of the leadership team has been swapped out in the last year. And so, yeah, I feel like with this article, it feels now it's 100% serious. And like you were saying, kind of beforehand, it still had an air of is anything going to come out of it? Sure, there's investigations going on,
Yeah,
but what's going to happen? What's going to be the conclusion of the investigation, and stuff like that's kind of how it felt
yeah,
like
and
before.
that's
Now it
not.
feels like something will come
Yeah,
out of this, and it could have dramatic consequences.
yeah, and I say that like it's not to downplay like the stuff that Double Lift or like anybody else who came out about Reggie being kind of an asshole, right? Like that's not that's not to say that they were wrong or like like are wrong now or anything like that. Like I think it's just like when you come out and go to you go to a stream or you're just like saying shit on Twitter, like even the positive statements where you had like Odd One and all these other like ex TSM guys coming out and trying to say like, oh yeah, like I never had any bad experiences with Reggie, or yeah, he was just like those kind of stuff. Like all that is like just like a battle over this like random court of public approval shit, right? And you're getting like your following versus their following, whatever. And I don't think anything can come out of that. So it's just like a weird spot to put yourself in. And that's why I said like the drama frog shit with Double Lift, right? Like that's what that is.
Yeah,
But coming from like this where like just having a singular place where you're like actually interviewing people that have they're talking to Blitz employees like in this
a lot
article,
of
right? Like
them.
this is
Yeah,
shit that's not just like yeah, and that's not like this isn't people that just like want or like have some tie to the LCS like esports situation, right? And they're doing this shit anonymously. Like you're getting stuff that's not just like potential for like vying for clout, or like going after follow. Like none of that's gonna matter when it comes to these are people's jobs. These are people's career dreams in some senses. I'm sure a lot of people like want to work at TSM or Blitz because like that's like fucking
right.
TSM, right? Like that's a brand, right? Like for those people, this stuff matters way more than just like being like, oh yeah, Reggie yelled at Dyrus. Can't you guys see that he's a dick? Like that kind of stuff is like not gonna matter as much.
But
I
yeah,
don't know.
something's
We'll see.
coming out
We'll
of
see
it.
what comes out of it. Something has to come out at this point. And if nothing, if this just stays like I don't know. At this point, this stuff can't stay radio silent. Like this is the kind of shit where a month or two from now, even if TSM like is doing well again in LCS, right? And it feels bad because I feel like they have successful esports branches, like their Rainbow Six team is like winning things, their Valorant team is like not as good now, but like a top team kind of thing, right? Like they're competing for real things. And I feel like they're not all as like dysfunctional as maybe the TSM league team has been in the last year, but it feels bad for those teams too, just like it feels bad for these blitz and plays, the people we were talking about in the article, that all this shit has to happen around them, like from that top level. And hopefully they can figure out a way that makes it so those teams that are underneath it don't get like directly impacted in the same way that like if in the case where like something the LCS decides Reginald can't be involved anymore, like then hopefully they can just find a way to kick him from CEO positions or whatever rather than like kick the team out of the league.
Yeah, something has to change about TSM in order for them to keep being TSM, I guess, or maintain um
Yeah.
the regalness that they have, I suppose.
Maybe X Smithy is gonna make the jump from
To
academy
see, I
head
know.
coach to CEO of the fucking conglomerate in like a
Yeah,
3 month
that'd be a
span.
twist.
Bjergsen comes back to run TSM from the head. Not the head coach, the head of the company.
All right, I think I'm all pooped out here for all of our topics.
Yeah, we had a lot to cover. It took a while, but we got here.
All right, and that's going to be it for episode 55 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you're listening to us on if you haven't already. We appreciate it if you also give us a rating or hit the like button to show up some support. You can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. We'll see you all next time for another episode of On the Hunt.
So long, folks.